Computer button. Okay, welcome back, everybody. We're gonna not admit how many tries it took us to get this going correctly. Nabil is with me. James is out today, but how you doing, bud?
Good. Yeah, technical issues have probably slowed us down a little bit this morning, but I'm really enjoying it. Football's already on the TV. The Dolphins and the Jaguars are battling across the pond, so it's football day, man.
It is football day. Yeah, we won't be giving live updates because that would be against the NFL rules or something, right? For broadcasting. I guess we don't even put this out live, so it doesn't really matter. But I'm surprised that Jacksonville's in the game. I mean, I know Miami hasn't really done much of anything anywhere, but Jacksonville's hanging tough. It looks like should be a good start to a good day of football. I'm very excited to throw a red zone on. Not worry about a 49ers loss because they're not playing this week. Just kind of get to chill, only worry about my own fantasy football teams losing.
Yeah, I mean, the hard part about that is this was like my first weekend without guests or like traveling since the season started. And I'm so excited to go to the Niners bar here in Austin. And then I was like, wait a second, they don't play this week. And next week I'm busy with like Formula One stuff. So I can never have my cake and eat it too, you know?
Oh, no. What are we going to do? So yeah, let's just jump into it. No training wheels on this. We're just going to do it live. We're going to talk about a little bit of fake football. Just congratulations to you last week, Nabil. Like what a showing. 117 points. I feel like that gets you back in the running in such a good way when you have a good week like that. Like, I don't know where you were exactly in the point standings, but whenever you throw up like a over 150, it's always nice to know that like, okay, I'm kind of, I might win some tiebreakers now.
Yeah. I mean, I think what's great is that, I went from, I think, sitting in 10th and then, with this 170 performance, putting me into 8th. And I keep talking about it, reoccurring theme. I'm a broken record on this, but because there's so much parity this year, I've even looked, if projections stay the way they are, which we know is not always the case, I could actually leap to third place, which it is crazy to think about considering I'm sitting in 8th. We're all 3-2 or 2-3, except for one team. And I mean, it's a great position to be in. Like usually, this is sometime that time in the year that you start to kind of think like, well, do I tank it? But I don't think anyone can sit with that. Like maybe with the exception of Ryan, whose team still looks pretty good at 1-4. But
yeah, I think Ryan is second in points. I'd have to double check on that, but he's just had some really bad schedule luck. I mean, we talk about this every year about how like it really sometimes making the playoffs is more about like how low is this points against column, not how high is your points for column. We look at Ryan, 619. Okay, so there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So he's middle of the pack in points for, but 719 against, and like no one else is even in 700. Like he's got some bad schedule luck. I mean, I beat him out by just a couple points, so we were both in the 150s. He's got a great team. Again, with a grain of salt, Yahoo projections don't mean anything, but here he is projected to be, 7-7, make the playoffs. So yeah, it's still anyone's league at this point. Everyone other than Ryan being within a game of each other is this late in the season. I'm not sure if we ever have had that. Yeah, it should be a fun middle stretch of the season here.
Yeah, and I think it'll just be for me to start really focusing on those in-division matchups as we start to kind of learn how our divisions work in general. I am 0-2. Hopefully I can squeak out a win here against Hoyt, and that puts me at least with one win, and that makes me feel a little bit better as we probably eventually get towards eventual tiebreakers or even final setting, right? Because if you look, what's kind of interesting is everyone who's in second place in their division is also the division leader.
Yeah. So I want to put that to bed again. Yahoo apparently seems to think that division record matters. There's no setting that I've been able to find to change that. Like, so there might have to be some end of season rearrangement of the standings potentially. I don't think it's going to matter, but the division winner is going to be the manager with the best record, and the first tiebreaker is, as always, going to be total points. Like, just we're throwing that out. Like, we haven't changed that within our league. I just don't know if Yahoo settings what they're going to do. But so the little cross sign for division leader doesn't actually mean anything. If you're at top of your division, you're at top of your division.
Nice.
Yeah. And I know that I've said that a few times, but hopefully someone learns that again from hearing it. Let's look at your 170 though, because it's funny. I predicted a big game for I went to the wrong one here. I predicted a big game for Darnold, and it's like everyone else on your team went off, and Darnold actually kind of put up a dud. What was a lot of big numbers, but which one was your personal favorite to see kind of explode for you?
Honestly, it's the one that I've been so happy with, which is Ja'Marr Chase. I think it's really promising having so I took him thinking, okay, OBJ would step into my wide receiver 2 position. I can hold Ja'Marr Chase because he had a really bad preseason. Or at least that's what all the reports are. And then he's come out and he's balling. Like, 2 performances under 23, above 20, like everything in the double digits. He's been able to pretty much average a touchdown a game. He's been phenomenal for me. And it's always great to see. And then, obviously being able to squeeze in Damian Williams for Chicago, that turned out to play out well. And then Madison has always stepped up when Cook is out. So yeah, it was more that I feel like I made the right decisions, and that's even being wrong with not playing Kareem Hunt, which every time I go to look at what is your optimal lineup, I know I'm going to be the guy who the time he trusts Hunt's going to have a bad game. So if he needs to sit there on my bench, I feel like I have such a solid core of running backs that I'd rather just keep Hunt away from people. And eventually, if I need him, I can plug him in and hopefully he's still a stud. But yeah, I mean, really the performance of Ja'Marr Chase that has been my favorite pickup, I think, so far.
Yeah, I'd say just looking at if I were you, I'd be stoked on the Eckler explosion, just because I mean, not that he hasn't done this before. Like, obviously the 29 and a half, a week before that, 22s the 2 weeks before that, he's been very consistent. But just the fact that he's been such a long-term investment for you, that was the one I was expecting to say, because he's definitely proven that he's going to be a top 5, top 10.
This is what he was supposed to be last year.
Yeah, he's gonna be that top, kind of guaranteed first round pick next year in redraft. And I can't remember. Do you have? And you don't have him next year. This is the last year that you've got him on this keeper contract. So definitely, I would say it's nice to enjoy the fruits of a long term investment. But yeah, you're right though about Chase. That was also, I mean, to get 160 yards on only 6 catches is that's efficient. That's damn efficient.
I mean, him and Joe Burrow, just that connection from Clemson is just, or no, LSU. It's clearly carried over. And again, whether it didn't show in preseason or not, he came out, and when it was time to put your hand in the dirt, they came together, and now that connection seems like it's still there.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it's honestly a big part of why, I mean, who I'm blanking on, George Kittle came from Iowa, and one of the terrible backup quarterbacks has started for
CJ Beathard.
It was Beathard. Yeah. It was Iowa guy too. And that, I feel like Beathard played better with Kittle more than the other way around, but having that, you've been teammates before, that matters more than I think people realize. So yeah, great call on the Chase pickup. I also did want to take a look at Antonio's roster. I mean, you didn't have a monster week with 172. Antonio did beat you out. I'm sure you're very glad that you did not play Antonio with that much of a monster second week. But looking at Antonio, obviously the Andrews 2 touchdowns late in that game against Baltimore, and the 2-point conversions for Baltimore against the Colts, that was insane. is Herbert like, is he officially like the real deal and in that like that top level quarterback, like, where you're not necessarily Mahomes, is obviously Mahomes, I think is a still like a half step above him, but is Herbert in that conversation now of the like truly like elite, like good daily fantasy pick, like type of play?
I think he is easily one of the top 5 who will help carry the future of football. I mean, think about like even over the last 2 to 3 years, names that were still thrown around at quarterback to pick up in fantasy. If we're only speaking fantasy terms, right? It's like Ben Roethlisberger, Matt Ryan, like Matthew Stafford, while Matthew Stafford is still having a great portion of his career and Matt Ryan has his moments. But like, it's about time we feel like we have rookies that we can like actually just focus on for football, not even just fantasy, of just being able to get excited about watching, because, we have Herbert, Mahomes, Lamar Jackson. I mean, to some extent, Baker Mayfield, if they ever figure out that whole like OBJ situation.
But he's young and exciting to watch.
I'm even watching Trevor Lawrence today, and like, not terrible. Like they just need to figure out what they're doing with the rest of their offense. / they need to get rid of Urban Meyer. But like it's good to see that we have people we can trust. And Herbert's so like is talented. And I wonder if all those teams that kind of passed on him kind of regret doing that.
It might. I mean, we were really in a golden age of quarterbacks the last 20 years. We look at Brady, Rodgers, Drew Brees, Peyton Manning, like and guys like Tony Romo and Eli Manning, like would have been superstars in any other era, right? Like the fact that like, Eli won 2 Super Bowls and is basically kind of talked about as like, but he was never a top 10 quarterback, like while he was playing. It was like, well, he was at times, but just not consistently enough, because how many great QBs there have been. Some of those guys are starting to leave the game, or, like Big Ben's maybe kind of lost half a step. But there's plenty of young talent, there's plenty of young talent that coming back. And I'm with you. Like, it is fun and to see. And I think Herbert is kind of joining that list of like the Lamar Jackson, Mahomes, Josh Allen group, where it's like, yeah, like he's a young, like really good quarterback who's just fun to have on your team. At any point could have that like 400-yard game with 5 total touchdowns. Like, so great pick by Antonio. Obviously Herbert, he's got for a little bit longer too. Let's take a look at what is his keeper value here at 5. So is Herbert someone that is kept at 5 next year? I don't know, but is he bid on Rule 9? Maybe. We're adding that third keeper. I don't know. I love seeing the young guy sling it, and what a game too against Cleveland. I don't know if you caught any highlights of that, but that was just
it was an insane game.
Yeah, lots of it. Yeah, there was quite a lot going on Red Zone last week. But yeah, let's take a look forward into next or this current week a little bit. Any matchup in particular jumping out at you, Nabil, or should we just pick one? Who? Oh, you know what? We got to do Antonio Travis, number 2 versus number 3 in the league. Obviously, we just talked about Antonio and his big week last week. But who you got here? Yahoo projections say Antonio's a huge favorite. But is there a way you see Travis pulling this out? What's the X factor here for you?
I think the X factor is how consistent or how much consistent production can he get out of the 2 tight ends running you're pretty much hoping a touchdown. Like most tight ends, the way that they score is generally on a touchdown and a few targets. Let's just hope he gets both, like a massive target totals as well as a few touchdowns, just because it's hard to sit there when you look at your opponent. Everything starting from the quarterback down even to the tight end, even through the flex, is above 13 points. And when you have to sit there and try to feel comfortable about playing Kenyon Drake as your number 2 running back, it's going to be difficult, but it's not impossible. It probably is going to end up somewhere close to this projection. This is probably one of those weeks that it's going to be difficult to pull out, but who knows? This could be a Kyler Murray 35-point game. Tyreek Hill has one of those 35-point games where you make up the difference of the projections. And, so I think the over under on the Minnesota game is actually like rather low. They're not thinking it's going to be a big game. So maybe that like reduces the projection for Jefferson. And then eventually, it's just more hopefully Antonio's projections are just a little high. And then that should be enough for Travis to catch up.
Hopefully they're a little high, because if Antonio keeps getting projected for 140 all year, like we could all be screwed. Two things kind of jump out at me. One on each side. It's what really happens with the receiver situation in Pittsburgh. So does Deontay Johnson get the lion's share? Or does it go to Claypool? Like what happens with Juju Smith-Schuster out is very interesting to me, as far as like, is 17 kind of an under or over projection? Because it could be a case where nothing really changes. Johnson, Claypool all just kind of get the same amount of touches and targets. But also, if you look here, like double-digit targets 3 out of 4 games for Johnson, even with 2 targets, still got a big touchdown and a good production. But if this target share just goes up to like, averaging like almost, like 12, 13, or even gets up to like 15 for a game or two, that could be huge for Antonio, not just this week, but all year. And then Kenyon Drake, like obviously, you're getting a handful of touches as the backup now that he's the starter, or not really the starter. Like, what does it look like? New coach situation. Like 6 is always like there's a weird projection. Is he going to get fed? Is he going to get more touches? This could be a really low projection, or it could actually be really high if he continues just to kind of be in there a little bit. It's kind of one player in each team. I'm thinking like, I'm curious on how their Sunday afternoon evenings go. And then that could kind of help determine which way this whole matchup goes. But Tyreek Hill is the kind of guy that could go for 40 at any point. Obviously Herbert did the same thing last week. I don't know if the 71% chance is super accurate. But I would say if Antonio's favored, I'm curious to see if Travis can scrap it together and I keep this one close, because it's number 2 versus number 3 in the standings, and these matchups are always interesting. And when you're talking about 2 potential playoff teams, at this point in the season.
Yeah, I would agree. And kind of just looking at it, it seems like generally everything else, like all the projections, you kind of already have a sense of who is underperforming. Excuse me.
Right.
But it's kind of sad, because I feel like Spencer in my division, which I can't really be that sad. He's sitting there as the quote unquote division leader with that cross next to his name, but really coming out. And I feel like he's had 2 mediocre performances, which is always unfortunate, considering he came off to a really good start.
Mm-hmm.
I guess he got a win against Hoyt, and I guess he did put up the 120. So we're wrong. We're doing this live. We're not as always prepared as we live, but yeah, I don't know. It always kind of sucks when the projections finally reach under 100 and you're sitting there like, I don't have hope in anything that you can do, especially when you're going against someone who's projected at, above their current projection or something that's a little bit more positive, but you never know. It is football. The ball is not round, so anything could happen.
The ball is not round. I will say, I was just looking at this match in general. I was happy for Kevin to have a bounce back from that 65-point week. Obviously 150 is that'll end up in the top 25 scores of the season or so. But just mostly just so he wasn't so far back in the total points race. I'm curious if Allen can have that big game again. I'm Spencer, taking a look at this match. You would think that he'd get a lot more points out of the Brady Evans stack with, Tampa Bay putting up 4 touchdowns, and like Godwin also didn't have that great of a game as far as fantasy production goes. Like,
it's the Fournette show, baby.
It was the Fournette show. Yeah. But yeah, and that projection for 100, like, I don't know if that's going to happen. It's always, Collins could be, given all the touches that Carson is, maybe they split him up a little bit more. Who knows? Like the running back situation for Spencer isn't great, and then you get a total of 9 points out of your out of your receivers. It's looking like a rough week. And I'm yeah, and all of a sudden, Kevin, who is kind of, looking, if you look at his weekly scores, it was not good, not good by any means. And now all of a sudden he could be looking at 3-3 and just being in the playoff race. To your point, this league, and I know we said this a lot last year, is incredibly tight. And I'm super excited to see where it continues to go.
Yeah, and one thing we always talk about this, right? Like the magical number to feel like you're at least set yourself in a position to win is 120. And I just took a peek at the last previous weeks and we're looking at some of those scores. We might have to adjust with football in the sense that, it is more of an offensive league. We are starting to get the boom and bust more. And if you have a team that all booms at the same time, I honestly think we can start considering 130 as like if you get 130, you put yourself in a position to win. Like 120, I don't think guarantees much this.
No, yeah. I think 120 has always been you've got a shot. I mean, if you look at here, right on 120, that's a loss. Right below is a loss, a little bit below, a little bit below, a little below, all losers. But like clearing that, and then right at 120 is a win. 120 is like you're in the conversation. But yeah, getting that 130 is definitely more of a guarantee. You're at that 140 level, you're feeling very confident. Because 120 is kind of like you're not going to win a title scoring 120 every week.
Right.
But you are going to have a shot at making the playoffs at 120 a week. That's kind of the difference. But yeah, maybe we do have to kind of adjust that because or even at like 125, I feel a lot more comfortable than at like a flat 120. And I'm curious if I'd love to actually scrape the data and actually go back and see how does it work? Because it feels like we have kind of thrown that 120 number out there just kind of off the top of our heads, but I wonder how true it really is.
Yeah, because I honestly feel like we're just scoring more and more. And I don't know if it's because there's just more information on who might have the better matchup and things like that. But I'm looking at everyone and there's only two teams. There's only two teams that are not averaging 120 points a week, right? You're looking for above 600 at 5 games. So it just something interesting that we're looking at just right before, this week's games, not much to analyze, but yeah, I think we should see like a pretty good week. Hopefully there's not more injuries. Cause I don't know about you. I'm kind of getting sick of having 2 or 3 weeks consistently of like big hitters, getting out. And that is where I start to think we start to see blow-ups and kind of or blowouts, not blow-ups, in our matchups, because all of us have been plagued by something. And it's getting harder and harder to dive into the waiver wire and try to find talent that you feel confident playing, because now even their reserves are getting more injured. And so like,
oh yeah,
you're now having like super timeshares across the board.
I want to throw out one thing too, like that has made it frustrating. Obviously like with the IR slots, it's supposed to give you more flexibility when you have that player who's injured. But like, I just like anecdotally, I just want to throw out Rob Gronkowski is clearly not playing with broken ribs, but he was actually listed as questionable through waiver claims. Russell Wilson was going to go on IR. Chris Carson was going to go on IR. Either Russ or I think it was Russ was actually listed as out because he was knocked out of the previous game. But like the extra IR slot, like I couldn't actually even utilize because Gronkowski was sitting there and questionable. Nobody else actually had that out designation. So I actually I couldn't even, not that I'm out of fab dollars, but I couldn't make any waiver claims. Yeah, and keep everyone on my roster that I wanted. So yeah, it's been frustrating. Like I understand everyone clamoring, asking for more, IR spots, but like it's just part of the game. It's an unfortunate part of the game. I'd much rather be the guy sitting here, talking about get injuries rather than get on the field getting injured. But yeah, it's been a pain. As great as it's as it is to be back to a normal football season. I feel like there are a lot more injuries across the league this year. Also, did Jasicki score again, or no? He has no touchdown.
No, it was Waddle.
What the heck happened here? But
I was about to say Dolphins just went up.
they did just score. Yeah. All right. 18 points out of Jasicki, I will say, that's gonna be huge for my matchup with Hunter. And he didn't start.
How are you feeling about your matchup? He has similar projection to what he had last week going in.
So here's where
where
the breakdown of that projection is, right? He's got 5 more points projected for Lamar over Aaron Rodgers. To me, that's a wash. Like that shouldn't actually be like that 5. They should be projected about the same. Cup is better than Higgins. That 4 points, sure. So there's a 4-point advantage. Godwin, Brown, obviously Godwin did not meet projection, so we're down there. So it is a little bit towards Hunter, but the big thing was going to be Jasicki versus Waller. Like Jasicki has a potential to only get 3.5, 4 points. Waller, I think, has a much higher floor than that this year. 8.5 last week, but like look at the targets.
Yeah,
obviously he's not going to match the 19 targets that he got in week 1, but that was for me. That was where I was like, that's the one spot where it's like he's just kind of 10 points better potentially than me. If Jasicki can get like a couple more catches and get into that like 20 to 25 point range, he doesn't have to score. It's a great start for me on Sunday morning. I know that I'm not favored against Hunter, and I shouldn't be favored, but I don't think it's a 2-1 shot that he beats me. Rodgers loves beating up on the Bears and Lions, so this feels low. And then we'll see, and also the Derrick Henry at 19.3. I know they're playing in Buffalo, who's a much better team than some of the teams that Henry has torched. But like since week 1, look at the number of rushing attempts that Derrick Henry's had. They're going to feed the beast. They're going to give him the ball. 19.1 feels like a low projection, even against Buffalo. And again, the rest of the year too, like those, only projected over 20 once. I feel like there's some room to make it up there. But we'll see. It like most weeks, it's kind of it's going to come down to one of two things, right? Who blew up or who just put up an absolute dud.
Yeah, I mean, and this is pretty crucial for you to hold on to your first place. If you can squeak this out, you're good. You're sitting there at 4-2. Antonio possibly might get the points 4 over you, depending on how he ends up scoring at the end. He hasn't had a player play yet, so there's no updates to his projection. Yeah, should be interesting. And honestly, look at the the standings now, because I guarantee after this week, everything's going to look different. There's just we're all sitting at 2, 3, 3, and 2. It's already looking that there could be a couple upsets this week. Good job, James, for predicting the upsets from week 5. And we still have half a season after this, or more than half a season. So
1.5 a season. Yeah, we're not. Yeah, it'll be nice actually in a couple of weeks to be at a true halfway point. That's not in the middle of a week, because we do now get, with the NFL going to an odd number of games, we actually switch to an even number of regular season games. There's a part of me that definitely feels like the fact that someone could not go 500 was kind of weird in our league. Like that is now no longer an issue. We're 5 games into a 14-game schedule, so we're past the 3rd mark, actually deep into it now that we're into week 6. But yeah, projected right now, obviously you got me and Hunter at the 3-2. You got Antonio and Travis both at 3-2. I think that's the only matchup of winning teams. So we're guaranteed to have 2 teams at 4-2, right? There could be more because we also got Drew, Spencer, Hoyt. We're going to have between 2 and 5 teams at 4-2 is bottom line. We're going to have somewhere between 2 and 5. But it's not like anyone is going to be in a spot to run away with it. So yeah, every game matters. Every game counts. I've never been, first of all, leading the points race this late into a season. I've never been even close to leading the points race this close to this deep into a season. So that is not something I've actually had to look out for before. And it's definitely, it's interesting because I'm definitely keeping an eye on, okay, well, if Antonio keeps getting projected at 140. He might just run away with it. As far as that total points goes. Yeah, lots of interesting stuff. Let's take a look. I feel like we've done every matchup but one at this point. Who haven't we looked at?
Or at least we've talked about most.
Let's take a look at James and talk about him since he's not here. What do you, yeah, well, what do you, if you're looking at the James Drew matchup, what jumps out to you as far as, you know, who's going to win? Obviously, James has got the Yahoo projection. Gaskin with a fumble has not been good for Drew so far in this early morning game, but your thoughts?
Yeah, I think it's hard because you start to look at the matchups. I always like to look at the person who's projected to lose and see where are things, I guess, going wrong, right? Like, well, right off the bat, you see Gaskin sitting here at 2.4. There's there's still 9 minutes left in the fourth. I think I could still say that as long as I'm not giving specifics. So sure, maybe Gaskin gets a touchdown or records a few more receptions to kind of boost his total there. That would be what Drew needs to at least set himself where if you have a quarter or a running back that ends at 8, it's not great. It's not terrible, right? Diggs could have a monster game. It's kind of one of those that I hate waiting to Monday to determine. And it looks like he has a kicker, a defense, and Stephon Diggs. So he's going to be waiting. And I hate that after Sunday night, right? You're looking and then going into Monday being like, I need 35 points or I need, 20 points or even worse, right? You're like, I need 13 and you still can't get it. But, James has a lot of good matchups. I think picking up Zach Moss is going to, I think they're making, or there might be a change of guard to maybe stay with our London theme here. But Zach Moss seems to be getting more totes and kind of doing more with it. So maybe he becomes the primary back there. Swift probably going to ball out on Cincinnati's defense, though they've also been great. So I don't know. I think this one's up in the air. Woods hopefully can repeat. And I think you might see probably James end up crushing Drew. If I'm being honest, I actually can see, man, that projection for Tannehill is a little bit higher than I thought, but I can see him going over 130 pretty easily.
I will say there's kind of two. It's Diggs versus Hopkins for me. I think is this projection feels low, and James is still projected for 130. But I feel like the Cleveland Arizona game could be an absolute shootout. And you
just saw it with San Diego, so right. Yeah, why
just saw it and so if this feels low to me, on the flip side, Diggs is one of those guys too where he could bust out a big week at any point, and then I feel like only getting 5 targets against Kansas City. Obviously that game changed a little bit when Buffalo was basically trying to run out the clock for the entire fourth quarter. Not what you would have expected anyone to do against Kansas City. I think that he bounces back as far as getting more targets. Also, only 1 touchdown for Diggs so far, at least receiving this year. Feel like that needs to get, we're going to potentially get a return to the mean. So the Diggs versus Hopkins kind of lineup is going to be super interesting for me. Yeah, it all comes down to Monday though. It's really like, it'll be Tannehill versus all of Drew's Bills. And it'll be, hopefully it's close because it'll make Monday night very interesting from a fantasy perspective.
Yeah. And I'm just looking at Drew's team and I would have to say there's not necessarily a head scratcher. I think we're looking at the same thing here a little bit, or like they're 2 comparable players, but surprising he doesn't just go with Joe Burrow here. Because, and that's not me looking at projections, or I would have said Cousins, but Joe Burrow has been kind of playing really consistent football. And honestly, he could at least benefit. Oh, wait, no, we just totally changed games. Take everything back. I have no point. I thought we were looking at a team that had Mixon. I'm wrong. Wow. Should have looked at this before. But honestly, I do think that Burrow is probably going to have the better result over Heineke. I know I was going to try to get him off waivers, Heineke, and or not even off waivers. I was just going to pick him up off of free agency, and Drew kind of sniped me right before. But I think that's my only curious call there. Otherwise, I think Man, he just needs Gaskin to score. And I keep looking at the clock go down on the game, and I'm just like, ooh, right
just-
out of time.
And I just don't think that the Gaskin is going to be the guy. I mean, you look at, live, he's only got 5 attempts. One of them was a fumble, 2 catches. I just feel like I haven't been watching. Not sure if Gaskin's going to even be on the field down the stretch there. Like, I think 2.4 might be where he ends up sitting.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree with you on the Burrows comment. I mean, he's got 3 quarterbacks, and as you know so much, right, Nabil? Like, if you've got 3 fantasy quarterbacks, you've got no fantasy quarterback.
Yeah.
Heineke against Kansas City, it's interesting to roll with that choice. It is technically not 10 o'clock yet, so he could make the switch later. We don't know, but I'm with you there. The Monday night comment is interesting though, because I want to. Hunter and I have talked about this a bunch, and it's funny. I play him this week, and he loves having somebody go Monday night. Like, it's like a thing for him where he'll pick. Like, if I don't have, if his opponent doesn't have any Monday night players, like, okay, then Sunday night's fine. But he likes being able to have like the last at bat, basically, like be able to get that walk-off win. And once again, he's got AJ Brown going on Monday, and I've got nobody. I think I will be done. Yeah, I'll be done with Claypool tonight. But it's funny that he always talks about how he loves having that one last shot on Monday night to make it interesting. So yeah, that's funny to hear that you're kind of the opposite, that you just like you'd rather get all your stuff done on Sunday.
Because there's that dread of, like, for me, it's not even like, honestly, if I had one person playing on Monday and I'm like 20 points behind, and it's just one player, I'm like, okay, cool. Like, I'm into this. Like, I would like to see like this be that game and come back. But I dread anytime I'm only like a few points behind or even a few points ahead with one player left. Just because I'm like, all right, hopefully you're a good manager that if you're a little bit ahead and you don't have the opponent having any more players, you probably should just bench your player.
I've done it
personally. But maybe if everyone's chasing that points for it, it gets into your head and you leave them in there. And then I think I've even won with like a player literally just like fumble, injury, out. And so I don't know. I've been so scared of close games, and I'd rather just be done Sunday, watch Monday in peace,
That is true. It is nice not having to worry about your own fantasy matchup going into Monday.
Now, I would say I love when your opponent has Thursday games. And that's what I think is great about when we were looking at the, I believe it was Ryan's team, right? Or is it, no, it might've been Spencer's team who had already sat with all his players, because we just reviewed it.
Spencer, like, I think he had 2 or 3 going on Thursday. Yeah, he had Brady, Evans, and Smith all go already on Thursday. And so coming into Sunday, Kevin's got a huge leg up.
And I just think with that, and I'll relate it to me also having a player on Thursday with Fournette going for 30, right? Like, I like having some knowledge on Thursday, whether it's me having played some players or my opponent. And that way it helps me set, hey, do I be more conservative and try to go for a high floor, or do I try to shoot for a high ceiling? And yeah, right. It's just
but like week 1, I had Godwin and Gronk go for 23 and 29 on opening night on Thursday. And I got to like the Thursday thing is always interesting too. It's like, if you have a big Thursday, waking up Sunday morning is just so great.
Why do you think I'm feeling confident, man? Yeah, I'm sitting here. Not that I'm not having a worry in the world, because I have Sam Darnold, who can apparently go either 20s or less than 10 each week. So yeah, let's hope I get the quarterback situation figured out. Otherwise, like, Fournette put me in such a comfortable position. So yeah. I think in general, we are just kind of yabbering now with not much direction. We could check in later this week, but I feel it's time to get myself ready to sit on the couch and watch real football.
Yeah, I am too. We'll leave you with this. So do you have a bold prediction for the week?
My bold prediction, and it's more just so that I can feel right, is that Kareem Hunt will not get higher than 11 points. I'm going to take 6 points off there for a touchdown being the difference.
Kareem Hunt. So
I'll go less than 10. I'll go less than 10.
Wrong matchup. My bad.
Kareem Hunt is currently projected for 20 points, which I think is Pretty ridiculous, but hey, they have no one else, and he's proved me wrong. I just need to keep being wrong about him. So
Get him in there. Get him in there. Okay, yeah.
I mean, he hasn't done it except for once against Houston of all teams. So hopefully Arizona's defense is actually legit and they kind of hold him down so I don't feel wrong. I just don't want to be wrong.
Yeah, well, yeah, I love being right. Let's take a look here. Bold prediction. I'm curious. You know what? We're gonna just go the opposite way of my my preseason pick. Bold prediction. I don't know if this is really fits the 10-1 rule that I've come up with, but I think Devin wins. I think Ryan. I think Devin finds a way to pull this out. I think Stafford, who I normally am not really high on. I think Stafford has a big game. I think Kansas City continues to put up duds, and Mahomes has a solid like 15 to 17 point week, but is not that huge of a factor. I feel like Adams and Rodgers are going to blow it up this week. Lockett, I will say, a little bit too high of a projection without Russ throwing to him. That'll be interesting, but I think Devin pulls it out against Ryan, and we look at a bunch of teams up at the top. We'll have a handful at 4-2, but Ryan will have a big hole at 1-5. And again, not exactly super bold. So we'll go Devin wins in a blowout against Rocha.
In a blowout.
Devin,
all right.
Blowout win. That's my bold prediction for
Love it.
For the week.
We're lukewarm this morning. It's fine.
I moved. We're getting back in the swing of things. We'll get some more structure back to this soon and have a good time. But you know what? Our half dozen followers or so, hopefully you all enjoyed it. Nabil, any last words before we sign off?
I really needed Jaguars to win this for our pick'em league, but I only put 1 point on the line, so it's not that big of a deal. That's it.
All right. Well, have a great Sunday, everybody. Hopefully you get to throw this on in the background during the games. And Nabil, great talking to you as always.
Always. Thanks for getting through this with the technical issues, and good luck in your game today.
Thanks. Same to you.
Peace.